thank you for joining the not the hash. What am I on about? The November internationals round to wrap up. So yes, we're into the full international window now. Lots of games to get through. I'll be going through, obviously, the big Tier 1 clashes. We'll also talk about all the Tier 2 games that I'm aware of. We'll talk about the Rugby World Cup Repechage, which kicked off this weekend. And finally, we'll run through some of the international women's games that have also been taking place. It has been an absolute smorgasbord of rugby. As I said last week on Twitter, there has been something for everyone. We had sort of replays of various World Cup clashes that have happened in the past. We've had a game that we wanted to see 12 months ago, to be honest. A bit of a Six Nations qualification as well. So yes, it's been an absolute cracking weekend of rugby. Yes, this is obviously this is recorded live. So if you're watching the recording, come back generally at 8 p.m. and most evenings of the week, New Zealand time. I am going live, so do pop back for these shows. So let's kick off then. First off, it happened. The weekend started, or the rugby started really early in the week on the 5th of November, and so that was back on Monday, I think it was. Coventry hosted Canada in their Rugby World Cup Repechage warm-up when they went down 12-35 to Canada. So let's just jump over to the Rugby World Cup Repechage first off, and we'll come back to the rest of the games. We had two games with Canada playing Kenya. And they came out on top there, 65-19, with Canada getting the all-important try bonus point as well. We pretty much expected that. Kenya are having some issues between the players and the unions, basically. So that's all. It's all a bit of a mess over in Kenya, unfortunately. Then we had Hong Kong going down 9-26 to Germany. That was an upset. Hong Kong are 4 or 5 places above Germany, perhaps a few more than that, in the World Cup rankings. So that was a bit of an upset there. Hong Kong knocking over 3 penalties to Germany's 2 tries, 2 conversions, and 4 penalties. So yeah, Germany didn't get the try bonus point, and they never were looking likely to be honest with you. When you think the tries were on 66 minutes and 77 minutes, it really was towards the end of the game that they managed to get those tries. Whereas, as I say, whereas Canada scored 6 tries, I think it is, during their game. Oh, sorry, hang on, no, more than that. Sorry, Van der Meer got a hat-trick to me. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tries. So yeah, clear victory there for Canada. Next up, Hong Kong host Kenya. Obviously, both those sides, it's the last chance saloon for them. They really need that win. And then Canada take on Germany. Again, that's going to be looks like it could be the big clash of the tournament. After Germany, as I say, upset Hong Kong in that first round. So that's how that's kicking. That's how the World Cup, Rugby World Cup Repechage has been going so far. We had a couple of warm-up games for some Tier 2 games. So Cardiff Blues took on Uruguay and beat them 45-21 on the 6th. And then 3 days later, Uruguay went back to back and played another game against Ulster, losing at 21-5. So Uruguay, in 2 games in 4 days, or 3 days, sorry, is a big ask, obviously, for Uruguay. So clearly trying up the whole of their squad. Getting on to some of the more sort of proper games or test matches, shall I say? Sorry. Russia hosted Namibia, winning that game 47-20. So yeah, a big good win there for Russia. Obviously, Russia going to the Rugby World Cup next year. Then we got into the kind of the clashes that most people will have been sort of more aware of, with the kind of Super Brew predictions and all of that kind of stuff. Italy took on Georgia, and they won that game 28-17. Now, Georgia were leading at 1 point, but Italy came back and won that one. Obviously, this was a big one because lots of talk about Georgia being ranked above Italy in the world rankings, and should Georgia be in the Six Nations. Now, Georgia have never beaten a Tier 1 team. This was their best opportunity, let's be honest, against Italy. Sure, they don't get as many opportunities. They get about one a year. But from 2020 onwards, they're going to have a home test match, which will be a big change for them. And you've got to remember, teams like Japan obviously beat South Africa at the Rugby World Cup and then drew with France in the November internationals the following year. USA beat Scotland at home this summer. So though there are other Tier 2 nations who have got Tier 1 scalps recently. So yeah, it's whether Georgia are ready for that step up yet for that Six Nations is perhaps a bit more questionable now. Scotland played Fiji, came out, won that one 54-17. Good victory for Scotland. Obviously coming off the back of losing to Wales, but they were missing some players. I mean, we had in this game, we had Hogg, Russell and Greg Leglaw all back, for example. And Scotland are a much stronger side at home, so perhaps not so surprising there. England lost to New Zealand 15-16, a lot closer than a lot of us were expecting. And the weather over in the UK was wet, so there was a lot of rain in this game, so a lot of kicking, which obviously altered the game. Now, what would the result have been if it was dry? We'll never know. So there's no point speculating around about that side of things. Yet again, we've had people out on Twitter complaining and moaning. Now, I'm going to breeze over that because, look, as I've put out on Twitter today, let's bring back respect in rugby. Let's not be moaning and complaining about, oh, you cheated this, or we got stolen here, or you disrespected, blah, blah, blah. I'm really not into that kind of stuff. Let's talk about positivities around this. Yeah, England really had a go at this game. Were 15-0 up in the first 25 minutes. And then New Zealand managed to come back, as so typical of New Zealand and the Crusaders, etc., around half-time. They got that score just before half-time, that important score, so they didn't go in nilled in that first half. Got a converted try then, came back out, got a penalty just after half-time, a drop goal on 45 minutes. And yeah, it's those 10 minutes either side of half-time where the All Blacks seem to always get points and are so important in these sort of games. Cracking game. Obviously, we had the Cura. Obviously, we had the refereeing controversy. Again, look, guys, the referee is the sole arbiter of what is right and wrong on the pitch. He gets to decide, and how he wants to use the TMO is up to him, as far as I'm concerned. He asked TMO a question, the TMO gave him the answer. All fine. Yes, I'm English, but yeah, no, I'm more than happy. Well, not more than happy. I really wish England had won, to be honest with you. But I'm comfortable with with the referee's performance and how he went about things on the day. We then had the French Barbarians hosting Tonga, and the French Barbarians came off second best there, 38-49. So really good result for Tonga. Tonga tied side on the up. They were definitely the third of the Pacific Islands behind Fiji and Samoa, but it looks like they really have stepped things up. Helps that they actually now have a stadium in Tonga that they can play home game test matches with, which is fantastic. Obviously, so that only started last year, was the first time that stadium got opened, and it does seem that yeah, Tonga are climbing up and are a team on the up at the moment, which is fantastic to see. And we then had a game, and we can't blame the rain for this one because the roof was closed. Wales versus Australia. I mean, this is a real old school score, 9-6. Wow. Not the easiest game to watch, let's be honest. But hey, we obviously had our refereeing controversy on this one as well, with a charge down that ended up having contact with the Lee Halfpenny. I'm not going to get into that again. But let's try and look on to the positives. Halfpenny didn't have the best of games with the boot, to be honest. He had missed a couple of penalties, so Wales should have won this one a bit more comfortably than they did. But this is a massive win for Wales, even if perhaps not the best performance. I mean, no tries scored there, but they have beaten Australia for the first time. It's like 13 attempts, I think it was. Let's say this is a massive thing for them mentally ahead of the Rugby World Cup, where they're both in the same pool. So big win for Wales. Sure, not the prettiest rugby, not the most flowing rugby, and perhaps not one that we're going to go back and watch over and over again, but a big one psychologically for Wales. Talking of psychological victories, over in Spain, another USA with a last-minute penalty, beating Samoa 30-29. That's, I mean, obviously the USA got an absolute drubbing against the Māori All Blacks last weekend, but they had a great summer where they beat Canada, beat Russia, and then also beat Scotland as well. So against, I guess, not proper. Māori All Blacks are not a test team. They're so against first choice teams, the USA are on a very good run at the moment. I say beating Samoa by that single point. They are coming up against Ireland later in, not next week, the weekend after. So I mean, hey, their winning run is going to come to an end pretty soon. But either way, fantastic result for the USA. I think they're off to Romania next for their next game from memory. So yeah, don't hang me. I've got that one wrong. Ireland beat Argentina in a bit of a stuttering performance, 28-17. The important thing here for Ireland is they've got the result. They beat Italy away with a second string side, or perhaps not a fully second string side, but with resting some players. Those players have come back in. They've managed to beat Argentina, and obviously next up is the big one against the All Blacks, who have obviously just played England. So half done for New Zealand, and Ireland is their next opposition. So yeah, good. That'll be a good warm up for Ireland ahead of that. So their big game is the next one. Argentina, I think, off up to Scotland next, and they were definitely in this. Let's be honest, they have stepped up under Mary Ledesma. They are looking a much better side. They're a side that is turning things round. It's just and so come Rugby World Cup again, I think they're going to be a dangerous side. Next up a game, I must admit I don't know much. Well, I don't know anything about it at all apart from the score, to be honest with you. Chile Chile lost to a South American 15, 21-38, and Chile are hosting the Māori All Blacks next weekend. And that's what I can say about that one. France then lost to South Africa 26-29. Another very close game. I mean, we've had the All Blacks winning by that single point. We had Wales beating Australia by only 3 points, and now we have another 3-point game here, a one-score game again between France and South Africa, including a try on 80 minutes and 4 minutes on 84 minutes to win the game. So yes, amazing game between these two that South Africa have just come out on top. Again, there's been people talking about the refereeing, but let's just enjoy the fact we're having close test matches that are competitive, that are fun to watch. So congratulations to the Springboks bouncing back after that narrow loss to England last weekend. And where do they go? They go to Scotland next. That's right, yes, to Scotland, Argentina after. So they go to Scotland next, and then play Wales. So a tough itinerary for South Africa. We've already seen, both Scotland and Wales won this weekend. Scotland much stronger at home than away with all their players there, so they're looking pretty good. Final game of the round saw Brazil lose to the Māori All Blacks 3-35. Brazil, obviously not a traditional rugby country. They're a side that, if you're not aware, are part of the America's Rugby Championship, playing with an Argentina 15, the USA, Canada, Brazil, Chile, and Uruguay. So they actually do have a proper competition once a year. It's been running for about 3 years now from memory, which is fantastic for them. And they have from memory again, have beaten the USA in one of those tournaments. I don't think it was this year, it was previous year, where the USA perhaps didn't take a full strength side, but even so, Brazil, a developing rugby nation, obviously coming up short against Māori All Blacks. Unsurprisingly, really, remember the Māori All Blacks beat the USA rather convincingly the previous weekend, 22-59. So yes, the Brazil managed to keep the All Blacks to a lower score, but didn't score as many points either. So that wraps up all the men's games from the weekend. We also had 2 ladies' games that I'm aware of. First up, England beat the USA 57-5. USA ranks my 5th, I think, in the world, have had 2 tough games. Lost to the Black Ferns over in Chicago the previous weekend, and then now have been beaten by England. I say 57-5. They go on and play Ireland next weekend, which will be another tough encounter for them. In the England game, in the women's game, you've basically got New Zealand, England, France, Ireland, and then a bit of a gap down to the next crowd. England, a fully professional team. The All Blacks are as well. I think Australia are, but they're again slowly developing their program. And then we had another wet game, France versus the Black Ferns, or New Zealand, 0-14. So real tightly contested game between those two. I think it was 0 at half time from memory. I have seen the highlights of this one. Yeah, it was two tries in the second half for the All Blacks to win it. Next weekend, those 2 sides play each other yet again. France play in New Zealand again. So we've got the Ireland hosting the USA, and then England will host Canada as well in the women's international. So I'm interested to see how Canada shape up. Traditionally, one of the stronger female sides as well. So Argentina versus France next, Simon says on there. So yes, very quickly, let's run through what we have coming up next weekend. Tomorrow night, I'll give you my predictions. The Dragons will host Russia. So Newport went Dragons, or well, they're called the Dragons now, but Newport went from there. Romania play USA. Uruguay, Fiji. That one's actually in England. Italy, Australia. Georgia, Samoa in Tbilisi. Wales, Tonga. Spain, Namibia. England, Japan. Scotland, South Africa. Chile, the Māori All Blacks. Ireland, New Zealand. Paraguay, South America, 15. And France versus Argentina. Plus, we have the 2 repechage games, which are going to be I've gone blank. Hong Kong, Kenya, and Canada versus Germany as well. So another feast of rugby coming our way this weekend, and again a whole bunch of different of kind of interesting games. Can Georgia bounce back against Samoa to establish their kind of tier 2 positions? With Spain is an up-and-coming game, so I'm talking about some of the small games here against Namibia. That's going to be interesting. Uruguay, Fiji. I mean, the Fiji travelling, that'll be good for them in that game. And then we have some of the bigger games as well. Ireland, New Zealand. That's the game of the year. Number 2 hosting number 1 in the world. Fantastic game. Hanson's already been talking up that the winner of this game is the best in the world, which, yes, maybe it's a bit of mind games, but also maybe it's a bit about talking up a game as prepared for Rugby World Cup. You can't say Rugby World Cup final is just another game. The build-up will get to you. So perhaps part of building up these big games is putting his players under the kind of pressure they're going to get around Rugby World Cup. It's not being anywhere near as big, but at least it's a trial. It gets people used to that kind of thought play. Wales, Tonga, Tonga, it's one of the side on the up from Pacific Islands. Wales tends to have in the past had issues slipping up against some of the Pacific Island teams. That'll be fun to watch. Scotland, South Africa. Where are Scotland? Again, a side on the up, but so are South Africa. So the Box. Yeah, absolutely. And that's another cracking one this coming weekend. and France, Argentina. I mean, those are the three games: Scotland, South Africa, Ireland, New Zealand, and France, Argentina. They're the three big games this weekend. Unfortunately, they overlap with each other, so I can only do live post-match reaction to one of those games, and clearly that has to be Ireland versus New Zealand. So I will be live straight after that game. If you want someone to watch the game with, then don't forget to then look at the 10-14. They are going to be running a second screen and talking about what's happening during the game. They're not actually going to be showing the game. You have to watch that through your local TV provider, but they will be providing a second screen of discussion as to what's going on. If you want to get away from the normal commentators and get a bit of an insight from them, they're really good. So go over and subscribe to them. And also in the live chat here, we've got Unbiased Rugby, another fantastic YouTube channel. So go and check out his stuff as well, please. Thank you very much for joining me. That's your wrap up of what has been going on. So it's very difficult to keep track of all the rugby that's going on. It is a bit crazy at the moment, but that keeps you up to date with all the international rugby. Don't forget to subscribe up there for my channel. Down there is a channel for it's my All Blacks Edition channel, which is where I'll be doing my live post-match reaction to Ireland versus New Zealand. And if you stayed this long, there are two videos there and there. It's all on the recording, sorry, not live, that you'll absolutely adore. Thank you for joining me, and good night.